Hey everyone, real quick before we start the video, we have a Draftbox 6 giveaway going on right now with 2 expansion sets as well. That will be pulled on Friday the 13th, November Friday the 13th, so you have until November 12th, that's this Thursday for me, making this video to get into that giveaway. So hit the description and there's going to be a link to the video explaining how to enter it. So definitely do that. Supports me, but also, helps you guys maybe get a draft box and some new cards. And then also the audio for the first part of this video on Chase's side is a little bit, I don't know what happened to it, but it gets better, I promise. But I'm sorry it went a little bit down at the first part of this video, but it does get better. So that's going to be it, and let's enjoy the video. Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and I've got special guest Chase Thomas.
What's up?
Hey, you decided to bring Android 13, or super old leader. He's from like set 3, right? He's an old leader?
Yeah, set 3.
Yeah, super old leader, but he took it to Tech Games, 128 person webcam, invitational. Is that the correct term for it?
Yeah, Tech Games Invitational, yeah.
Invitational, yeah. So you got your invitationals to the finals next month in December with this Android 13 leader and list, and you got 5th actually. So you went 5-1, right?
I did. 5th place, 5-1, and was able to secure that invite. So
nice.
Pretty stoked.
Yeah. So we're gonna go over the list. We have the whole list. I wanted to quickly go over the leader for people who don't know or haven't played this game for like the last 3 years. So he has a permanent that so if Android 14 and 15 are in your drop area, you can activate this card's awaken skill when your life is at 6 or less. So you have to have one Android, like you have to have 2 cards. There's an Android 14 15 card. You can't just awaken with that one card being in your drop area. You have to have at least one card and another one to fulfill both. But being able to awaken early is super nice, and he's like one of the first leaders who can actually do that, because we've got like Vegito starter deck and like the Dredge crew, both pretty good leaders right now, but and they have that idea of just being able to awaken early. So there's that, and so he's a draw 2. And then on the awaken side, when your opponent's Son Goku are battle cards energy cost 6 or less, which is a really kooky auto fulfillment, but is placed in the drop area by one of your skills. This card gains crit for duration of the turn, and then you also get a draw card. So not only are you able to awaken with this card, leader really early, you can put crit pressure with high life totals and really go from there. And the big thing I think this leader is good is that it gains a lot of card advantage, and then you can just go 1 for 1 with your opponent, and then you'll have more cards than they will at the end, right?
Yeah, basically that's just kind of how it went. And I know his auto is kind of a little kooky, but
yeah,
believe it or not, it's probably one of my favorite autos.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just kind of think about his auto with discarding from hand or KOing on the field, but they don't understand that critical is also a skill, which is one of the things I like to focus on. Critical is my favorite skill in this game, so I try to incorporate that as much as I can too. So it's a lot of fun to see swinging with my leader and telling them it's critical, and they kind of are a little confused by that. So
yeah, and it can happen during the combo step too. Like you can swing in 15k, or I'm going to switch to the list right now, but you've got cards like Cells, Earth Restoring Kamehameha, where you can say, during the battle, you can say, okay, boom, I'll play this, make them discard a card, and if that is and you get to choose the card, so they can't just automatically choose an extra card or a unison, and then you can have a 30k crit that they were thinking was just a 15k for just 1 energy.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll go through the list real quick. So obviously, if you're playing this deck, you have to run the Android Troop 14 and 15. It just has a really simple activate. You can just place it from your drop area to your drop area from your hand, and if your leader card's Android 13, you can just draw 1. So it's just free cycle, and it puts an Android 14 and 15 into your drop area, which means you can help awaken earlier. We also have 4 of this Android 14 Stoic Fist. So if your leader is an Android 13 and you choose 1 card in your hand and 1 Android 15 card in your hand, place them in your drop area. You can choose up to 2 of your cards in your life, add them to your hand, draw 1 card. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and place it in their drop area. So pretty much this card like awakens you by itself, right?
Yeah, so this is probably the main card you want to see when you start off, because not only are you discarding him and a 15, you're taking the 2 life so that you're proccing your leader's awaken. You're drawing a card, so you're going +1, and then you're causing your opponent to discard So they're actually at a disadvantage. And happening turn 1, your opponent starts out with 5 cards rather than 6. And then awakening, you draw 2. So you end up going +3, and your opponent goes -1.
For 0 energy. For 0 energy, too.
So, exactly. And so this card was, when I saw this was the reason that I loved 13. So
yeah, it's super great card. And it's mildly searchable as well. He's got Android, which is one of the better tags in the game, but definitely like something that makes this leader super viable. Like you would need a really broken card to make a leader kind of this archaic to be viable, and I think this is definitely suits that. So you do have to have an Android 15 in your hand, which kind of sucks a little bit, but that's why you technically run 6 because the Android troop is an Android 15, and then you also have just 3 of the one from set 3, and I'm guessing it's just because it's a 5k combo, and technically you can use 3 energy if you want to make them discard 1, which is kind of slow nowadays.
Yeah, normally I don't see me playing him for 3 energy. It's kind of a lot, especially just for 1 discard. I do run him over a lot of the people that told me, like, we do have that new yellow 15.
The same one from the
when you combo, you can take the 2 life.
Yeah.
But I mainly run this. I prefer to run this because a lot of the cards in this deck require specific green energy. So if I ever find him and he's kind of a dead card in my hand, he's always just a great energy. Just for that green. So that's mainly the reason I chose him.
Because you definitely want just be a mono green, especially with unison cards. You have to charge 3 if you want to get Broly on turn 3 out. And so I think it makes super sense for that. And the other thing is that since it's a draw 2 leader, not an untapped 2 leader, you're not like every energy counts a lot for this deck. So I would agree, especially with some staple cards that you have for this deck, like Rebrand 4 of paying 2 to make your opponent discard 2 is really, really good. Cells Earth Restoring Kamehameha, which can get you up to 30k for 1 energy and make them discard a card. So it's kind of like a better super combo in a lot of ways. And the cards like that I think are just way better for your energy. And even like your super combo. So you're running 4 of the Vegeta the Lone Prince, and you have to, if your leader has to be mono green, but which we can just use 1 energy to make them discard a card, and that's can really set up your leader effect too.
Yeah, and specifically running this, when I saw that it was just a 1 drop, you cause your opponent to discard. If anybody was playing during the World Tournament and they would know that 1 drop green Goku does the exact same thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's really powerful, and a lot of people tell me, well, why don't you run the Android 16 super combo or the blue green Android 18?
Yeah.
That way you at least you're still getting cards out of their hand. Well, again, same problem with the 18. You want to run mono green.
Yeah.
For energy just in case.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a much better card than the Android 16 just because not only this card has less limitations than I feel like Android 16 does, mainly because the 16 requires you to be at 4 and 4 life and you combo. So especially when I awaken early, I kind of like to stay at 6 a lot.
Yeah.
And with this Vegeta, he's at least a 0 cost 10k. And then if I am at 4, I'll at least get a draw. So I get both the advantage of drawing as well as the discard.
Yeah, and so like with this deck, like you pretty much start your game with 6 life. So it's pretty easy for you to get that awakening. Like getting down to 4 is pretty easy, but I can also see like there's probably a lot of turns where you have like 2 or 3 floating energy, and you got to decide what you want to do. So just being able to have this opinion, like this option to say, oh, I'm just going to use 1 energy to make my opponent discard 1 card, that's super efficient for this deck, I think. Especially with, making sure your leader gets, his effect off.
Definitely. I think the only thing about this deck was just, deciding exactly how I was going to use my energy in order to not only cause my opponent to lose cards in their hand, but also proc my leader to gain crit because... Again, swinging just with crit, not only are you getting cards out of your opponent's hand, but you're not going to be giving them any cards as well when you're just swinging with crit. So
it's and especially since you awaken so early, if you swing in like your crit leader turn 2 against their unawakened 10k leader, like they either like just crit a life immediately or they like lose 2 cards in their hands to combo out of it or something like that. So it's just really can be really pressure heavy on turn 2.
Exactly.
All right, so going from there, so that's just the idea. We've got cards like Unison. So we picked Demigra because he's like the best Unison, and then we chose Broly because he's like the best Unison for turn 3 for green. But both these cards are really good in my opinion. I talk about this enough on my channel anyways, but yeah, I think these are just perfect, especially since, Demigra is great for having the Unison markers up for Dormant Potential, and Frieza, which are also running 4 of both, because why would you not? They're really good cards.
I would say, one thing about Demigra is, with his permanent being able to take life, definitely helps too, because, for whatever reason, if I can't find the Android 14 to discard a 14 and 15 to do my own Self-Awaken, he's like my Self-Awakener in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
And with the Android troops, I can just have 2 in hand that I discard to just cycle, and with Demigra, they'll get me down to 6, and I'll have a 14 and 15 with the troops effect. So,
yeah, definitely.
It's just more of another way to awaken.
Yeah, so I think it's just a good idea for that. And like the -3 effect, being able to pop things with barrier can really help you. Like just getting your leader effect going again too, it can be very helpful.
Definitely, especially in the Invoker matchups.
Yeah, being able to get rid of their 3-drop Vegeta on curve for 0 energy on that turn is helps a lot. I really like that for that matchup. All right, so some other cards to flesh out the deck. We've got 2 Dark Temptation Toa and 4 Son Goku Power of Legend. Both. I mean, you're making your opponent discard a lot of cards anyway, so the Son Goku should be super easy to get off. And just another crit, and then Toa probably you just play this on your turn that you want to win, right? Because you have to, like, you use your drop area for stuff, so it kind of sucks to warp it, but it's still good value.
Yeah, definitely. I originally started this list with actually 3 Toa and kind of just used it as just an extra discard if I felt like my opponent was holding in that 1 negate. So I did run 3 at first, but I felt like, one, it was a lot of black that I was running into, so I was having that problem of needing to charge green and just having such a dead hand with 7 black cards. So I kind of dropped it down 1, and again, with this Son Goku being able to just come out for free every time I make my opponent discard, he's another critical. His activate main as well. If I ever find that my opponent has a strong battle card and it's 4 or less, I'm able to, just warp both of them and just bring out another Goku next turn. So
yeah, and it's really good. It just kind of is the idea of like saying, okay, I'm going to get a big hand turn 1 or 2, and then all my cards trade 1 for 1, and then I win because I have resources left and you really don't.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot of how my matches kind of went. I really, turn 2, turn 3, I ended up with 7 to 8 cards in hand while my opponent went down to 0. So
yeah, exactly. And so you don't have like a lot of energy flexible, and there's a lot of cards I'd say that can be potentially dead. Like if you don't have energy flexibility, you have a good amount of Unison and the extra cards, but just having that hard hand advantage can feel really good.
Definitely.
All right, so a couple more cards just to round out the list. We also have Dark Broly. I think this is like a really good finisher card. Just making your opponent like hard discard a card, and just a 20k double strike on a Unison, which they can't like interact with. They have to either have a hard negate or they can't blow up this card. You know what I mean? So that's pretty good in itself. And on top of being a Unison, that on the it starts off with 5 tokens essentially because you do the +2 immediately. And then let's see what else we got. We got Zarbon, which makes sense. Is 2 the right number, or was it like a limitation of how many you had? I know he's kind of expensive right now, but
yeah. So I actually only had the 2. Just with playtesting. However, I do think that 2 is probably the right number with this deck specifically. It is kind of there just to not only get rid of maybe some of the dead cards that I might have had in my hand, but also, it helps discarding my Ribrians for sure was something that was definitely there for me. So it's kind of a flex spot, especially if people can't afford to have him in the deck right now. There's definitely other cards that you can throw in, but he was just kind of a throw in while I had him.
Sure. And he's people who went into these tournaments are going to be getting more of them. Like that's one of the reprints, so that should help people as well. But I think I understand he's a good card, and being able to just have a block, something you can play from your drop areas is always nice with these kind of decks. And I think, and then we two extra cards. So we got two create Android. So if your leader's card's Android, you can draw two cards and place one card in your drop area. I know I talked to you about this card before the tournament. Would you say it was worth the running it, or was it? What were your experiences with it?
Yeah, so I would definitely say this was worth running, mainly because, there is just so few cards that will allow you to search your 14 and 15 pieces that you need. And so they do run a lot of people do try to run a one-drop Dr. Giro that looks up top 3 for an Android. But if you look at the list, there's very few Androids. And I felt like with Create Android, I was at least able to draw 2 to cycle through my deck, as well as being able to discard 1. I could get rid of dead cards in my hand, or even just set up my Ribrians. And a lot of the times during my matches, I actually used them turn 1, and I was able to see my 14 or 15 that I was missing. I think only one of my games I actually really only started with both of them. So he definitely was a huge help.
Cool. Yeah, I guess that was going to be my follow-up question. How often were you able to, like, what turn on average were you able to awaken? Like, what was your consistency with the ratios you're running right now?
With the ratios that I ran, I think the latest I've ever been able to awaken was probably just turn 2. It's always been a turn 1, turn 2 awaken, and I think 4 out of the 6 games I was able to just awaken turn 1. So.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool here. And then you also, just for kind of safety, you're running 3 of this terrible creator Android 20. And so this one just lets you hard, like it's 2 energy, which kind of sucks, but it lets you hard find an Android card. So if you're really desperate for finding one, like he can help you just for kind of 2 energy. Would you say he was worth running it, or with the consistency that you got, was it worth? Do you think you can use this for like space for something else?
Sadly, I would have to say this card's kind of a must. In order to find that Android 14 or 15 that you're needing, this card is kind of a must. Especially, when you have your starting hand, you're just mulliganing for the 14 and 15s. But if you end up only having 1 and you find this terrible creator, at least for sure by turn 2 with his effect you'll be able to awaken. So I would say he's a must, at least until maybe we get a card, like the Gokul in the Gotenks deck that will at least give you a 1-drop support that can find your pieces faster.
Definitely. I can see that being something that this deck could use and like really take off with. Yeah, being able to have once again something like Gokul, because that looks up, that finds the cards you need for your awakening condition for Gotenks. And so if Android, if there was a card that for this 1-drop, and even if it said like if your Android 13 leader find 114 or 115, I think that would help out this deck. Like it will make it go extremely competitive. I think it's competitive now, but that would just take it to like another level.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and I think the last card we hadn't talked about is Newfound Power Son Gohan. You're running 2, and I'm guessing it's just for some self-awakening, and then also it's critical, which means if you use this on the swing first and you crit one of their battle cards, then you can, your own crit for your leader goes on. But was this card worth it, or do you think this deck needs like more self-awakening?
I don't think this deck needs any more self-awakening. This was kind of a flex spot. I kind of threw these in last minute. Just, I originally had the double strike Champa that I figured would come in handy, but I started to see, you're needing those greens, so I kind of ended up putting that in a side. And I was thinking the surprise attack Frieza would be good, but those 10k combos for 1 energy are kind of rough. So I felt like having a one drop 15k attacker that also helps you self-awaken just for whatever reason if you weren't able to do it early was great.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I understand that. So cool. I think that's the main deck. This was a best of 1 tournament, so you didn't have a side deck, but you did put a couple cards together. Some cards I want to talk about. So I think Roshi makes sense, especially if you're playing. I guess maybe first question: what what turn did you usually win by? Was it turn 3, turn 4? How'd that normally go?
It was normally around turn 4. There were a few games where I pushed it to 3, but just being able to have my opponent discard and be at 0 cards by turn 2, I was kind of forcing them to decide whether or not they were wanting to keep cards in their hand or charge their energy. And so that really, helped me out a lot, especially against a couple of blue decks that I had played. They weren't able to get past 3 energy, so a lot of them never saw, play for their Aboonies or any of their 4 drops that, really would have, played a big role in their game.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think Soul Striker, which ended up winning the tournament, I think it has some. It does kind of get card advantage later in the game, but if you can kind of stunt them at the beginning of the game, it really hurts, and you kind of can put pressure on them. So I think an archetype like this could be good for them. Another card I saw in the side, Surprise Attack Frieza. I love this card because I love the Xeno engine, and I think we kind of talked about this before too. Definitely, if you want to put like the Dark Dragon Ball engine with especially like if you're running Dark Broly, Overwhelming Evil, you should always think if you want to be running Deborah for the free discard and cycle and everything. So I think that you can definitely transition this deck into more of like a Xeno Frieza thing. The archetype is only about 10 or 12 cards, so you'd have to take out some cards, but I think it could be fit in here as well. But just being able to have a free 15k crit is always pretty good. And then what else we got here? So we also have the Son Goku Evening the Odds. So for 1 green, if your leader card's green, you have no battle cards in play, you can play this card, and then you can pop one of your opponent's battle cards. Was this just like a generically good green card, or was there something that you were thinking about for this guy?
Yeah, this is kind of just a generic. I was between having a Slumber Strike or him, and I felt like a lot of the times I'm not really playing battle cards too often, other than just my free Goku, or if I do have a Zarbon or Vegeta. But most of the time I don't really have cards on my field, so he was just kind of a good tech that I threw in, thinking if for whatever reason when I do play a best of 3, he kind of seems like a good idea. But there's also the extra card Slumber Strike that I saw fit for him as well.
For sure. So yeah, I think this is a pretty safe side. I mean, we haven't had best in 3s in forever, so it's hard to say like good techs for those, and kind of the meta's up in the air. But yeah, I really like this deck. Real quick before we go, do you want to run through your 6 matchups that you played?
Sure. So I did get to play game 1. I played a Blue Zamasu, and I just feel like with the Blue Zamasu leader, it's hard for them to gain back a hand until they're awakened. That way they can cause their leader to be dual attack and be able to draw twice. So it was kind of difficult for them once I was able to get rid of their hand, and just causing all that critical pressure. And most of the time I just ended the game with Dark Broly Double Strike after I quit you down to 2 life. So that kind of went that way. I did play a SS3 Goku as well, and against that leader, hand destruction is really hard.
Yeah, because they lose cards in hand to ramp, and so if you just take all the cards out of their hand, they're kind of stuck with where they're at.
Yeah, so that was definitely probably the easiest matchup of the day. And then round 3, I played another Blue Zamasu, so the same as round 1, it kind of went the same. My 4th round, I ended up playing a Sin Shenron, and that just happened to be the only deck that I lost to, mainly just because it really is a grinding matchup for hand control, and I was able to stop a lot of his 9-drops and Shenrons with my Frieza counterplay on his 4-drop, but being able for him to keep recycling the Star Ball and drawing off of that just kind of took a real long toll towards the end of the turns.
Yeah, for sure. I've played the Sin Shenron, and I like to play a lot of hand destruction stuff. So it can be really hard when they can keep recursing a lot of their their cards and everything. So especially since like just being able to like make your leader not swing for one turn feels really bad when this is definitely a deck where your leader is really important, and so not being able to have that swing can hurt a lot.
Yeah, and then I would say my fifth game was actually against Tony G, and he was playing a really cool blue Gogeta list, and so I tried to come up with a way how I was going to deal with his leader, especially on the Awakened side, because he can just take away one of his energies and draw 2 cards. So I felt like I was really either needing to pressure him right away or just kind of see how long I would be able to last. So what I decided was I just felt like the more critical pressure I was putting on him early game just kind of pushed me to that point where I got him down to 3 lives, and it was his turn 3, and so he just didn't really have a hand, and he wasn't seeing his Zeno Unison, so that definitely hurt him. And then I would say my last game was actually against a Vegeta ramp, blue Vegeta ramp, which was actually really interesting because I just decided to, instead of attacking his leader a lot, he actually got to see his Zeno Unison. But thankfully with Dark Broly having double strike, I ended up attacking his Unison with all of my battle cards and ended up not allowing him to ramp with his leader because I was already awakened, as well as him not being able to ramp with Zeno. So he actually wasn't even able to get past 3 energy as well. So that was an interesting match as well.
Yeah, it sounds it. And like you literally played 5 blue decks and you beat all 5 of them too. So I think I'd say in my experience too that hand destruction kind of beats the value and kind of ramp base of a lot of blue decks right now. So I think this is a really good kind of meta pick for a time when we're seeing a lot of blue decks doing very well.
Yeah, definitely. And I just kind of figured this was something I was able to handle. I feel like the only struggle that some of this deck has is, against decks like Broly BR or Black Boo, being able to draw 6 cards, then yeah, it's definitely difficult for this deck.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I 100% understand how those decks kind of just invalidate the idea that of my opponent not having a hand when they actively encourage it. So
yeah, but I mean, I just felt like this was a good meta call. But I mean, this has been a deck that I've been trying to perfect, and I feel like with a lot of these new cards that we've received, especially with Ribrianne is probably the MVP. So this is the deck that I've kind of just been trying to perfect, and still working on it. I know we got new DB6 cards coming out, but I'm gonna have to take a good look at see what I can throw in. But
yeah, but I'm happy that your hard work's obviously paid off and you're able to do well in an event with it. And yeah, there's definitely obviously Green's getting a lot more support in the next draft box. Any cards that's on your radar, specifically for this new from the new draft box to put in this deck, or you still gotta look over it?
I still gotta look over it. I mean, the Bio Broly Unison kind of intrigues me, but I'm just still trying to see how that's gonna fit. I know I can discard quite a few of my dead cards, but I just still think Demigra is probably one of the best green unisons out there still. So I'm just
I agree. I think
there
could be something for the Hurrigarn unison too, though, because you can have him out there, and then he can kind of be like a Bardock where your opponent has to like combo something from it. So, but yeah, I think there's more green unisons coming out, so you have to reevaluate. But Demigra is also just a really hard unison to be better than.
Yeah, definitely.
So cool. I think that's going to be it. We somehow talked for 30 minutes, so here we are. I really appreciate you reaching out to me and everything, and I'm happy that you're able to get 5th with this deck. It's really cool to see, and that's going to be it for me. Anything from you before we head out?
No, I would just say don't give up on old leaders. Trust me, they still got some usefulness. But if Bandai's listening and they want to maybe reboot this to look up top 7 for a 14 and 15 on the unawakened side, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll sponsor that too. If you get like a change petition, let me know. I'll put my name on it.
All right, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.